talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gully. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gully, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gully. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gully, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gully, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gully, yes I am. So what we're talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gully. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gully, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gully. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gully, and I'm gonna lead the way. One, two, three, four. They call me Mr. Gully. I've got something for your ear. Now it might sound kind of funny, but I'll make it very clear. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gully. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gully, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gully. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gully, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gully, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gully, yes I am. So what we're talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gully. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gully, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gully. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gully, and I'm gonna lead the way.
Hey everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking on your hump day? Hey, it's hump day. We here at the Tom Gully Show as always hope that you're getting the full, total, and complete amount of hump that you so desperately crave and you so rightfully deserve. Tonight, let me tell you about the Man From U.N.C.L.E, a spy show Well, I hate to tell you this about this show. It's probably too cool for you. I know, I'm sorry. No insult intended. I know it's too cool for me, but it's going to be way too cool for most of you. Please do me a favor right now if you're watching. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, all those free things. They don't cost you nothing. They don't cost you a penny that you can do to help our little show here, our fledgling, unremarkable, unwatched program. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, especially the share and the retweet, because you have friends and you're influential and smart. And if you tell your friends and they tell two friends and they tell two, see how this works? Anyway, so if you could do that, we do have super chats. We do have memberships. Might as well put the begging bar up at the bottom of the screen now. That's where I beg for stuff. Or you can go to the TomGullyShow.com, go to our merchandise store, membership, super chat, like I said before, PayPal. That's the best way, because then I get all the, and you give all the, and YouTube doesn't take 30% of it, which, please, you know. Anyway, let's get to a few quick comments, and then we're going to launch right into our topic for tonight, which you can see in the background, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. That's like the title screen. It's got some text on it. See it, the uncle at the bottom. All right. What do we got here? Dirk says he loves the new movie that they did about The Man from U.N.C.L.E. just a few years ago. He says it was great. I'm glad he liked it. I thought it was meh. It was okay. Leon Kennedy is responsible for the new Tom Gully Show theme song, and he says he doesn't know anything about The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And he says he's 35, he's too young, and I just say you're never too young for an old show, man. You really aren't. But he does love old shows. He likes Hitchcock films, season 1 of Twilight Zone, 12 Angry Men, loves Jimmy Stewart, and really, if you like the early Bond movies, you will love The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And there's good reason for that. There's very good reason for that I'm going to tell you about in just a second. I mean, super good reason. He apparently has been watching those Bond films. Let me see. Had to kick somebody out of here. Dabble versus commies. I don't know that for sure, but, you know. Here we go now. Jared's here. He is here. Always good to see Jared. I was looking for Jared in a certain Discord the other night, but he was dormant. Leon says, wish I had saved all the failed attempts at making the Tom Gully Show songs. Some of them are good. Some of them are just peculiar. Christian Slater is here. He, of course, is addicted to spiders. I really, for his sake, wish there was a better color of spider, because they kind of just fade into the background there. But take it from me, there's spiders and spider webs all over that. Barbarella, not tonight. Not tonight. There's more spiders. Now, Christian, there you go. Fire, flame. Let's see here. Cool picture with Ron Bennington, Tom. Did you also meet Fez? That's not Ron Bennington. Hair looking fly. Hair looking like it needs a cutting. Hair is getting a cutting tonight or tomorrow. Well, we don't do a show on Fridays, so you won't be able to see it. But I had a big meeting on Friday that I have to have it cut for. Let's see. Let me tell you about Comedy Shaman. Oh, please, no. Are we watching The Detectives tonight? Well, we could, because I've got my Elvis Costello. Although this is from the more from the era of the Get Happy album. I have to listen to this in the background while my cat has a tantrum. I tell all these Hollywood folks about the show. They want more spider content, by the way. Well, I'll work on that. And Music Biz Marty Official likes the Bond film, so that's great. So let me tell you about The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And I'll just go ahead and put this up here and do that. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Okay, it was an American spy TV series, and it was produced by a very high-end television production company. Now, a lot of the movie studios, Universal and the rest, produced TV shows back then. But at the time, MGM, which produced Gone with the Wind, MGM was seen as the top shelf movie producer, and by association was a very, very high end TV show producer. So this came out from one of the biggies. It was almost guaranteed to be high quality, have an extremely high production value, okay? And this show follows the exploits of these two fellas right here that you're going to get to know real well over the next 45 minutes. And by the way, we have to be out at the top of the hour because the show that we're friends with starts at the top of the next hour, which means if I know the host of that show, it'll start at about 25 minutes late. So we're not in that bad of trouble, but we are kind of in bad trouble. So these are secret agents. Napoleon Solo, played by Robert Vaughn, he's on the left, and Illya Kuryakin, the Russian spy. Why would a Russian spy and an American spy be working together? I hear you cry out. Well, we're going to cover that in a second. And that gentleman is played by David McCallum. And many of you may know David McCallum from the TV series NCIS, where he played Ducky for many years, sort of the autopsy forensic scientist guy. This was probably the biggest thing in either one of these guys' career. Now, Robert Vaughn went on to appear in a lot of movies. He was sort of a bad guy in some movies. He was in some big movies, but this was his biggest starring thing ever. David McCallum did a lot of films over in Europe and a lot of things, but he was just sort of had the same thing happen to him. So these guys worked for a secret counter-espionage law enforcement agency called U.N.C.L.E. Now, a guy by the name of Sam Rolfe, who started a TV show called Have Gun Will Travel, which that was his big deal until this show, okay? He started the whole thing. He didn't want U.N.C.L.E. to stand for anything, nothing at all. But over the years in novels and in other episodes and stuff, it finally got its own acronym. He didn't want it to stand for anything, and for a long time it didn't stand for anything. But U.N.C.L.E. means United Network Command for Law and Enforcement. The show appeared the first time in September of 1964, stopped in January of 1968. We'll get to that too. At the time, there was a huge spy craze. James Bond had launched a giant spy craze in like Flint, the Matt Helm series, but spy shows were big everywhere. You know, Mission Impossible, everything. Spy shows, spy shows, spy shows, spy shows. And there was about a dozen imitation shows by about 2 years after this show came out. And there was a spin-off series to this one called The Girl from U.N.C.L.E., which we'll touch on just a little bit later. Now, one of the things about this show was there were very few recurring characters, okay? There were really only three main characters of this show, and here they are. They are right there. There was really nobody else. These guys were on the show each time. On the left there is Illya Kuryakin, in the middle, Napoleon Solo, and on the far right was their boss, played by Leo G. Caro, a British guy who played the head of U.N.C.L.E., and his name was Alexander Waverly. Yes, Alexander Waverly. Yes. But because of the fact that there were very few recurring people on this, they had huge guest stars. I'm going to tell you about the guest stars that they had on this show in just a second. Here's one example. Whoops-a-daisy, wrong picture. Hey now, sorry, I'll get to that in a minute. There is an early guest star appearance by, yes, you know him from Guardians of the Galaxy. You know him from Death Proof. You know him from Big Trouble in Little China. Yes, he is Snake Plissken from Escape from New York. That would be a young Kurt Russell. Yes. Just an example of the guest stars that they used to have, but there's better examples, like actual adults, that I'll tell you about in just a minute. Now, this show also had lots of gadgets, as you might imagine. And these gadgets are in museums. And I don't mean the Hollywood Wax Museum. I mean the Museum for the CIA, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum, and other U.S. intelligence agencies like the FBI and stuff. And this series won the Golden Globe for Best TV Show in 1966. So this wasn't just like a off the beaten path kind of show that later became famous. So there you are. The series has 105 episodes, and it was made by, as I mentioned before, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM. The first season was in black and white, but the remaining seasons were in color. Now, the reason that the first season was produced in black and white wasn't because they couldn't afford color or didn't have color, but there was a thought on the part of the studio that most people didn't have color TV sets. So they produced it in black and white for that reason, and that illogic fell to the wayside for seasons 2, 3, and 4. Okay, it was first broadcast on Tuesday nights on NBC, but the ratings weren't that good there. And they knew they had a good show on their hands, so they moved it to Monday nights, a half hour earlier, reach a little younger audience, and that's when it really took off. Now, we mentioned earlier that if you like James Bond, you might very well like this series. Well, there's a good reason for that. Ian Fleming himself, the guy that created James Bond and wrote all the James Bond novels, he contributed to the series after the co-creators went to him and said, hey, you want to help out a little bit here? And Ian Fleming is the one that proposed two characters, Napoleon Solo, who you see here with a hot babe, and originally a girl named April Dancer. Okay. Now, April Dancer was a character that would later appear in that spin-off series, The Girl from U.N.C.L.E., but the original name for the show was Ian Fleming's Solo. And really super famous writers wrote scripts for this show. A writer by the name of Robert Towne, who wrote dozens of movies and certainly wrote one a lot for Roger Corman, and a legendary science fiction author named Harlan Ellison wrote scripts for the series. Okay? Originally, Napoleon Solo was supposed to be the focus of the series. But when David McCallum came on board and, portrayed Russian agent Illya Kuryakin, the fans loved him so much that the two of them became a team. All right? Let me get to some of your commentary if we have any more here. Let's see. Jared has to go sleepy time early these days. Every time I hear Elvis Costello, I think of Gully. Thank you. Please tell Elvis Costello that if you ever run into him. Wow. Jared, come on, man. Anyway, so this show centered on the two-man troubleshooting team. I'll just bring these guys back up here again. Working for U.N.C.L.E, all right? The American was Napoleon Solo, Robert Vaughn, and the Russian, Illya Kuryakin, and Alexander Waverly, I mentioned earlier, the British chief of the organization. Very, very British. Very, very British. Their primary adversary was an organization called THRUSH. THRUSH. And the symbol for THRUSH is at the bottom of this particular visual, okay? There also you see Napoleon Solo's card, his business card, and on the left is a badge for U.N.C.L.E. Now, it's a bit incomplete because sometimes those badges had numbers on them, two-digit numbers, well, anything under 2 digits. But that's the badge they would wear while they were in the headquarters, all right? The THRUSH, they never revealed who THRUSH represented. And they never revealed the acronym except for kind of in a novel. This may not be canon or canon. Technological hierarchy for the removal of undesirables and the subjugation of humanity. This just sounds made up to me. But there's two different founders. The thing about Thrush was you never knew who was the head of it. So constantly people would claim to be the leader or but you never ever knew. Okay? And the deal is, the reason that the Russians and the Americans and all other nations were working together was because Thrush was so evil, and Thrush did not have an allegiance to any nation or anything. They just wanted to conquer the world, that even ideologically opposed governments like the US and the USSR would band together to work against them, okay? Even though there were some episodes where Solo and Kuryakin were kind of at odds because of what they had to do. Anyway, one of the biggest things about this show, is that every episode, you watch an episode of NCIS, or you watch an episode of the FBI or one of these other shows, even CSI, there are people in it who have done crimes. There are people in it who are secret agents or who are in the mix for a good reason. In all the episodes of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., the person who was sort of at the center, or the person who Kuryakin and Solo were interacting with, was completely innocent. And I don't mean innocent in that they hadn't committed a crime. I mean innocent in that they were an innocent. Okay? And the audience heavily identified with these people. Let me give you some examples. Like in the first episode, the pilot, a suburban housewife was drawn into this international intrigue, okay? Or maybe a guy that was a trash man. He just would be dumping out the trash and somehow get mixed up in this huge international intrigue, all right? So every episode, there was an everyday person who maybe Kuryakin and Solo wanted to, case an apartment. And they had to get the permission of the person whose apartment was above the evil guys. That innocent person would then be in on the case and drawn into the case somehow. It's like, we can't go talk to him. He'll know something's up. Could you go downstairs and find out if he's going to be around? That's the way it did. It was a really interesting plot device because, again, every episode had a huge guest star, very few reoccurring characters. So that's one of the things that made The Man from U.N.C.L.E. different than many, many other shows. It was filmed with locations at a Lever Brothers soap factory in California many times, but then they started using the MGM sets. The original name of the series was going to be Solo. I won't get into the actual legal intrigue between Ian Fleming and the Bond people and the people making The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but there was a lot of back and forth. There was a character called Mr. Solo in Goldfinger that they were making at the time. Ian Fleming himself said, this has nothing to do. I don't think they're doing anything wrong. They went back and forth, and really nothing happened except that they had to change the name of the show. That's the only thing that was the sort of the agreement they made to get out of all this legal hot water. Okay. Oh, by the way, Chef is here. Popped in today to say, I don't want to burn the food. Catch up with you later, everybody. Thanks for stopping in, Chef. Appreciate that. I appreciate that. Now, here's the thing that I'm going to just tell you about. I'll tell you about a little bit more later. But when they were filming the episodes of Man from U.N.C.L.E., remember, they're being produced by the television division of a major motion picture company. They went ahead and shot lots of extra scenes. And these extra scenes had a lot more sex and they had a lot more violence. And what they did with those is turn them into movies. They would pair up 2 episodes of The Man from U.N.C.L.E, add in all these extra scenes, bam, you've got a theatrical release over in Europe. And they did very, very well. Now, the show is on over there too, but these movies did super, super, super well. Now, I had mentioned the thing about the innocence, and that was one of the things about The Man from U.N.C.L.E is this kind of fantasy notion that you and I, in the world that we live in every day, our mundane everyday lives, was infiltrated constantly with secret agents and spy stuff. Okay? So there was always this thing where there was like spy things going on, but the spies were so good at covering what they were doing that average people didn't notice it. But you saw it when you were watching The Man from U.N.C.L.E, right? You know, let me see here. In like one time in the series, frogmen come out of a well in an Iowa farm. There were shootouts between U.N.C.L.E and THRUSH agents in a crowded Manhattan theater, but they were using silencers, so nobody noticed. The locations of these various spy safe houses and stuff were always in the most innocuous locations possible. You know, just a regular city street, all sorts of stuff. All sorts of stuff. Let me see. The show at some point between seasons 2 and 4, because of the success of Batman, they tried to camp it up a little and add humor. Really bad idea. It was a smash hit show. When they did this, people didn't like it very much. They did not like it very much. I mentioned earlier that originally it was in that Tuesday night slot, and it was up against the Red Skelton show, which was super popular, and a series called The Tycoon with Walter Brennan. And the ratings were not good, but when they changed it to Monday nights, that's when the whole thing happened. That's when the whole thing happened. Let's see here. The people making the show realized that going to comedy and camp was a bad idea, and so they changed that. They went back to their old formula, but it was too late, and the show eventually was canceled after 4 seasons. Let's see. Christian Slater says he likes sex as much as spiders. Does that mean you like sex as much as you like spiders, or does that mean you like sex as much as spiders like? I can't tell. You're going to have to write these things down a little more carefully. Now, I'll mention it again. There was a spin-off series, The Girl from U.N.C.L.E. It only lasted 1 year. There was a pilot episode, and the girl from U.N.C.L.E. was played, April Dancer, was played by Marianne Mobley, who was a Miss America, had won Miss America, and became an actress. But the series, the spin-off series, Marianne Mobley appeared in an episode of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., just one episode. But for the series, they got Stephanie Powers, and in the pilot for that, Norman Fell, who was Mr. Roper on Three's Company, he played the guy secret agent with her, Mark Slate. But at the series, it was a guy named Noel Harrison. Leo G. Caro reprised his role as Mr. Waverly in both programs. And Mr. Waverly, Alexander Waverly. And that made him only the second actor in the history of American television to star as the same character in 2 separate series. Bet you didn't know that. They actually had a reunion TV movie in 1983 called Return of the Man from U.N.C.L.E, subtitled The 15 Years Later Affair. Oh, I probably didn't mention it. All of the shows ended with the word affair. The Vulcan affair. The little boy with a lollipop affair. The whatever affair. That was another thing about The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Robert Vaughn and David McCallum reprised their roles for it. Leo G. Carroll had died, so Patrick McNee from The Avengers had taken his role. The film basically filled in the missing 15 years since the series went off the air. It was okay. I would not highly recommend it. The theme music, I'll only touch on this briefly, was written by Jerry Goldsmith. And if you're a person who's a fan of certain movies and things, Jerry Goldsmith has been nominated for 18 Academy Awards, 6 Grammys, 5-time primetime Emmys, 9 Golden Globes. He comprised the score for 5 films in the Star Trek franchise, 3 in the Rambo franchise. Other movies he did: Logan's Run, Planet of the Apes, Tora, Patton, Chinatown, The Omen, Alien, Poltergeist, Gremlins, Hoosiers, Total Recall, Basic Instinct, LA Confidential. I mean, come on. And so they got a great guy to do the music, and that was, Jerry Goldsmith. There you are. Now, let's get to those guest stars I talked about. And I just, for the fun of it, want to put... By the way, doesn't Napoleon Solo look like such a badass in this movie? I think I'm just going to leave that up. Let's see. The man from Spider. You just made Christian Slater very happy. He put up about 90 spiders. Let's get to those fabulous guest stars I was talking about. By the way, we're halfway through. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. Share, like, and share, and like, and share, and share, and like. Come on, man. At least like. It just costs you a click. You just click. It doesn't, nobody's going to know, right? You don't have to, and if you share it, just say, hey, this is an awesome show. You should watch it. And you should tell other people to watch it. And if you don't, I will hate you forever. Just if you could just write that down. It's no big deal. All right. So, like, for example, these big guest stars. There was a 1964 episode, and it was called The Project Strigas Affair. 2 years before Star Trek premiered, William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy appeared together in an episode of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Okay? Shatner was this heroic civilian recruited for an uncle mission. Like I told you, there was always an everyday person that got dragged into it. And Nimoy was the villain's henchman. Who was the villain? I hear you cry out. The villain was Werner Klemperer. And many of you may be saying, who is Werner Klemperer? Werner Klemperer is Captain Klink on Hogan's Heroes. Now, if that's not an all-star lineup, we had our show about Get Smart. Well, Barbara Feldon, Agent 98 or whatever, she played a translator on U.N.C.L.E. eager for field work, in the Never Never affair. And that was a year before she became one of the stars of Get Smart. Robert Culp, let's go down the list. Jill Ireland, who was at the time married to David McCallum and would later marry Charles Bronson. Hello. Ricardo Montalban, Mr. Rourke from Fantasy Island, was on that show. And many, many movies, by the way. Joan Crawford. Janet Leigh from Psycho. Jack Palance. You guys know Jack Palance, right? The legendary Jack Palance from that Billy Crystal cowboy movie where he played Curly. No? Sonny and Cher. Richard Anderson, who was Oscar Goldman on the $6 Million Man. And Richard Anderson, by the way, we should do a show just on him. One of the most durable TV actors ever. Ever. Eve Arden, who many of you might remember from Grease, but also had her own very popular TV show. Martin Balsam, who you might have seen in Psycho. Joan Blondell, also in Grease, but a huge movie star. Judy Carn, who was on Laugh-In and was Burt Reynolds' main squeeze for a long time. Ted Cassidy, who played Lurch on The Addams Family. Joan Collins from Dynasty. Yvonne Craig, who was Batgirl on Batman. Broderick Crawford, Academy Award winner. I mentioned Joan Crawford. Kim Darby, who you might remember from the original True Grit. Ivan Dixon, also on Hogan's Heroes. Anne Francis, who is on, she had her own TV show, Honey Marlowe, something, whatever, she's a lot of movies too. Grayson Hall from Dark Shadows. Pat Harrington Jr., who was Schneider on One Day at a Time. Richard Keel, who was the big giant guy at the end of Happy Gilmore, who chases Shooter. He was also in some James Bond movies himself. Let's see here. Elsa Lanchester, Martin Landau, Angela Lansbury, Julie London, Voom, Jack Lord from Hawaii Five-0. I'll get back to more of them here in a second. My good buddy Leon says, it's past midnight here, Tom. Got to eat something before I die. And the spiders eat my body. Night, Tom, night chat. Thank you, Leon, and thank you again for writing or doing the theme song for the show. Appreciate that. Jan Murray, Leslie Nielsen. You guys all know Leslie Nielsen. Please. Carol O'Connor, Archie Bunker himself. Let's see here. Slim Pickens, Vincent Price, Cesar Romero, Kurt Russell. Let's just go ahead and put Kurt up here since we mentioned his name. Kurt Russell, Telly Savalas, Nancy Sinatra, Rip Torn, and last but not least, a young Sharon Tate. Sharon Tate, who you might remember from a legendary Hollywood movie, Murder Story in real life. So the guys from A Man From U.N.C.L.E. had a ton of gadgets. They had a whole bunch of different radios. One was a pen, right? Handheld satellite communications, pocket radios in cigarette packs, cigarette cases, fountain pens. One of the pens is in the CIA museum. But when they would talk to somebody, they had a catchphrase, and the catchphrase was "Open Channel D." Nobody knows what it means to this day. And that's one of the things I love about this series. They didn't feel the need to explain everything. What's Channel D stand for? Who cares? Doesn't matter. We're just going to move on. There was a Man From U.N.C.L.E. car, a special one. It was a modified Piranha Coupe, which was a plastic-bodied concept car based on a Chevy Corvair chassis. Limited number of them built. They thought that they'd all been lost at the end of the TV series, but one was found in Colorado during the early 1980s, and it was restored to its original perfect, pristine condition by Oscar-winning special effects artist Robert Short. So there you go. There was a Man From U.N.C.L.E. gun, and that gun drew so much attention. There's so many interesting things about this gun, okay? It was a modular semi-automatic weapon. But it was like a basic pistol that could be converted into a rifle, a sniper rifle. It could have a big giant magazine put on the bottom of even the pistol. And that big giant magazine at the bottom was just a regular magazine with an extension, like a block of wood or so. It wasn't even, but the authorities, right, came to the set. Because when they put the magazine on it, it wasn't semi-automatic, which means you have to pull the trigger to fire each time. It was automatic, like a machine gun. And the authorities came to the set because they thought the guys from the Man from U.N.C.L.E. were manufacturing machine guns. Well, of course they weren't. And then they went away. They did use two different base guns for the prop gun. One was a Mauser Model 1934 pocket pistol, but it was very unreliable and it jammed constantly, so they replaced it with the larger and more reliable Walther P38. So there you go. THRUSH had its own weapons, and they had something which was the infrared sniper scope, so that villains could aim in total darkness. And that infrared special effect was achieved by using a searchlight to illuminate the target. It wasn't that high tech, but and when those sniper scopes were on, there was this pulsing chirp sound effect that was used, which to me would have ruined the effect of being a sniper, but what do I know? You know, a lot of German small arms in the series. So it did win the Golden Globe for Best TV Show of 1966. It was nominated for lots of stuff. It was nominated for just a ton of Emmy Awards. David McCallum was several times. The producer was several times. Best Supporting Role, Leo G. Carroll. But nobody won. Nobody won. So it did get nominated for a Grammy. I mentioned that the show would shoot extra footage to be very much more adult, like James Bond movies, okay? And then to release them to theaters after they aired on TV. And they would normally take 2 episodes, scrunch them together, shoot extra things that would make them fit. And they did very well. They actually did extremely well. Now, they didn't release them as much over here because all the shows were on television a lot, but they did very, very well. The later films weren't even released here. They were just released overseas, but they actually did pretty good. You know, there was To Trap a Spy, The Spy with My Face, One Spy Too Many, One of Our Spies is Missing, The Spy in the Green Hat, The Karate Killers, The Helicopter Spies, and How to Steal the World. We mentioned a little bit about the 2015 remake, the film adaptation of the TV series. Warner Brothers produced it, along with Turner Entertainment, released 10 years ago in 2015. Great director, Guy Ritchie, starred Armie Hammer, Henry Cavill, the Superman guy, and Hugh Grant. Maybe that's why I don't like it. I don't like anything with Hugh Grant in it. It got mixed reviews, and it's okay, but meh. There were soundtrack albums released. Many comic books based on the series were released. But I think most notably, because I don't want to get too deep into comic book nerd stuff, which I can do because I am a comic book nerd. But in 2016, DC Comics released a Batman 66 series, which was based on the old Batman TV show with the old car and the, kooky, campy, kapow and all that. All right. There was a crossover called Batman 66 Meets the Man from U.N.C.L.E. because both of those shows were going on in 66, so they went ahead and did that. Novels. There were 24 novels written between 1965 and 1968. And because the TV censors weren't involved, these were rougher, grittier, more violent by far than the TV series. And they did pretty well. I've actually read one, and it was damn good, let me tell you. Yeah. There were 3 hardcover novels that were aimed at young readers. A children's storybook was released, and this is it right here. A children's storybook, yes. The Coin of El Diablo Affair. Digest size Man from U.N.C.L.E. magazine, a little digest size. featured original novella, The Continuing Adventures of Solo and Kuryakin. So big-time authors such as John Jakes, who wrote the famous book North and South, and others. There were 24 issues of that. In home media, now I looked this up before the show. This is not available streaming for free online anywhere. It's top drawer. They won't let you have it for free. But it is available on Amazon Prime and all of your usual suspects if you wanted to see it. Let's see, November of 2007, after coming to an agreement with Warner Brothers Home Entertainment, Time Life released a 41 DVD set, of the whole shebang. And you had to order it, at first, but then it was available to retail outlets later on. In August of 2011, Warner Archive Collection released the Man From U.N.C.L.E 8 movie collection via its manufacturer-on-demand service. Those were those movies that I had mentioned earlier. So the Return of Man From U.N.C.L.E movie is available. It became available in 2012. The complete series is available in the UK. And I think that you can get the whole thing over here as well. Merchandise, they had action figures. They had Aurora plastic model kits, which you would put together yourself. Lunch boxes and toy guns. Now, one of the toy guns had a target set with it. So you could actually shoot at targets. And there were cardboard stand displays of both U.N.C.L.E and THRUSH logos. Half a dozen soft plastic figures per side were included, including Solo, Kuryakin, and Waverly. The Corgi Toys produced a die-cast model of the THRUSH Buster, which is a car that was on the series, an Oldsmobile 88 with figures of Napoleon, Solo, and Illya Kuryakin, which popped in and out of the car windows, firing guns by pressing down on a model periscope protruding through the roof. So that's super cool. And that really is all I got to tell you about this really awesome, really cool series called The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you get a chance to see this show, because it is a damn good show. And it deserves a little more attention. And now I'm going to put the link in the chat, and nobody's going to use the link. And I'll just blather on here for 17 minutes. That's what I'll do. I'll blather. Pretty good at blathering. Been blathering all my life. I'm a well-known blatherer. I might give you a little bit more about the lives and careers of Robert Vaughn and David McCallum here in just a seckie. But we got to get out of here before the top of the hour, because there's a show coming on. It's going to be on, and it's a show. And I'm lucky, because usually when my show is an hour later than it is now, that guy's show is always at the same time as my show. Imagine how that made me feel. Imagine. Just imagine. It didn't make me feel very good. That I can tell you. I felt like a real schmo. I did. I really did. And I don't enjoy feeling like a schmo. There's only 7 likes so far for the love of Mike. Come on, y'all can do better than that. If you had a show and I was watching it, I'd give it a like. As a matter of fact, if you had a show, even if I didn't watch the show, I would like it and be subscribing to it. You know, that's what would make it such a beautiful gesture on my part, really. Because I'm a giver. I give and I give and I give and I keep giving, and then I give some more. And what do I get for it? Now, like, part of it's my fault. I do these shows that really nobody wants to watch. I deliberately pick extremely obscure topics. Whatever. Wow. That's good stuff. That's darn fine stuff. Well, so Robert Vaughn, let's put Robert Vaughn in that badass picture again back up on the screen. So Robert Vaughn, Robert Francis Vaughn, well, why don't I have this picture from the Man from U.N.C.L.E? Well, see, now I'm going to have to do stuff. Hold on a second here. There is absolutely no reason that I shouldn't have had this up during the show part. The show. Not now, but the show. You guys know what the show is. Of course you do. Let me get this other picture, because he deserves it, right? Come on. Now I got to wait for this darn thing to... Anyway, Robert Vaughn, best known Man from U.N.C.L.E, primetime Emmy Award winner, nominated for the Academy Award. Can you believe that? Had his breakthrough role as a disabled drunken war veteran in The Young Philadelphians, and that's what earned him a 1960 Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He was in The Magnificent Seven. The Magnificent Seven, you've seen that, I hope. And he played this evil congressman or police chief in Bullet with Paul Newman. That's got that great, absolutely great car chase scene. He was in Superman 3. Let's see. Here's his publicity photo right here. Here's his publicity photo. Look at that. Is that not a good-looking fella right there? Yeah, the Magnificent Seven. Dun 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 dun. He was in a kind of popular show. It was only on for 2 or 3 years, called The Protectors. He was on TV in the Great Britain, a show over there called Hustle from 2004 to 2012. He won an Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series for his portrayal of the White House Chief of Staff in the miniseries Washington Behind Closed Doors. He was in the British soap opera Coronation Street for a long time. And he was born in New York City. His dad was a radio actor. His mom was a stage actress. And then he moved to Minneapolis. So there you go. So he was in a lot of stuff. I don't know if any of you guys remember this movie. But he was in, oh, by the way, he was in Gunsmoke and The Dick Van Dyke Show and The Lieutenant and some daytime television a little bit. He had no problem doing that. He was in, hold on, I'll just go down here to his, he was an ad guy too. He did a lot of movies. There's a really good movie that I like that maybe some of you won't like. Come on, where is it? Battle Beyond the Stars. And it's with John Boy from the Waltons, and Sybil Danning is in it. And it's kind of a remake of The Magnificent Seven, only it's in outer space. And he's in that as well. But he was in a lot of fun, awful movies, later on in his career. And it looked like he was just having a ball. But he was randomly in the last season of the A-Team in the most abnormal casting ever. He was in some pretty abnormal casting, that's for sure. Brett Hollywood, good to see you, sir. If you guys haven't checked out Brett Hollywood's show, Twitter, you need to get on that. You really need to get on that. By the way, did I pin the link? I think I pinned the link. It's okay. We've only got 9 minutes left. Oh, I was going to do, doggone it, I was going to do David McCallum as well. We all know David McCallum was Ducky in, come on now, there we go. We all know he was Ducky in NCIS, right? I don't have to tell you that. Let's get on to David McCallum here. Scottish actor, based in the United States, also a musician. Became famous playing Illya Kuryakin. Why don't I get his picture up here? Come on, Tom, you dummy. You know, he was in some stuff, I'm assuming overseas, that we wouldn't know the names of, or you guys wouldn't. I, of course, would, because I'm a freak. He was Ducky in, you know, NCIS, which he played that role for 20 seasons. Then he was also in a movie called The Great Escape. Many of you may have seen that. That he appeared in it. He didn't have a giant role. He was Judas in The Greatest Story Ever Told, which is a story of the you know, the Jesus. He was married to actress Jill Ireland, who's most famous for being married to Charles Bronson, I think. But he was married about 10 years to her, right? And then he married a model turned interior designer in New York. And they were together for 58 years. He died at age 90 just 2 years ago, on the 20th anniversary of NCIS, during a marathon. A 20th anniversary marathon was on. So let's see if I can see. He was in A Night to Remember, which was a movie about the sinking of the Titanic, which is really good, by the way, if you've never seen it. He was in a movie called Billy Budd that was very popular. He was in The Great Escape, which had everybody in it. Steve McQueen, James Garner. I mean, everybody was in that movie. Greatest Story Ever Told. I'm not going to tell you the ones with the Illya Kuryakin movies from the thing. He was in Mosquito Squadron, British war film. Night of the Lepus, terrible movie. Night of the Lepus is a horror movie about somehow rabbits become gigantic, like the size of horses. It's awful. Absolutely awful. He played Alfred in a bunch of kind of direct-to-video cartoon Batman stuff. Played Alfred. Was in a lot of TV. He was in The Outer Limits. He was in The Travels of Jamie McFeeters. That show famous only because the star of that show was like a 9-year-old Kurt Russell. He was in Perry Mason. He was in Hullabaloo. He was actually the host of Hullabaloo, obviously because of being Illya Kuryakin. He was in Please Don't Eat the Daisies. These are TV shows. He was on Night Gallery. He was on The $6 Million Man. He was on Heart to Heart, As the World Turns. He was on The A-Team. He was on Alfred Hitchcock Presents. He was in an episode of Monsters, which was kind of an anthology horror movie thing. Judy Tester likes The Greatest Story Ever, Never Told. Never Told. Okay, that's a short film. He was on McCloud. He was on Sequest, Babylon 5. He was on Law and Order. He was on Sex and the City. He was on JAG, obviously NCIS. And that's about it. And he did a bunch of video game voices too. So there you are. Well, so yeah, okay. Now nobody's really watching. Now we've really driven off the audience. Here's to you. But that's a Man from U.N.C.L.E. I should probably figure out a way, and I don't think there is one. Oh, Jared's here. Hey, if Jared's here, it's a party. I should probably figure out a way, and I don't think there is a way, to show little clips of this stuff and not get nailed for copyright and still be monetized. I know some shows do that. Christian Slater's here. Okay, as long as all my homies are here. I know some shows get away with that, and I don't know how they get away with it. Absolutely don't know how they get away with it. I just don't know how they get away with it. I can't get away with it. But they get away with it. I don't know how I can get away with it. I'd like to get away with it. I just don't think I can get away with it. If there was a way to get away with it, I'd get away with it, but I don't know how to get away with it. So anyway, and I don't care. I like doing shows about things that are off the beaten path. How are people going to know about them otherwise? Right? Am I right? If I don't do it, nobody's going to do it. Hard to comment consistently from the afterlife, says Music Biz Marty Official. Hey, I appreciate you breaking through the time-space continuum as often as you do. So you know what I think I'm going to do here on the Tom Gully Show affair is, that's all I got to tell you about the Man from U.N.C.L.E. And hey, not every show can be Sterling Hayden. Anyway, I think probably, what are we watching next, Tommy? I don't know. I got no idea. I'll tell you tomorrow. We don't do Friday shows anymore, so I'll tell you tomorrow. And you know what? I shouldn't do a show tomorrow. Because I said the thing about if there were shows that we don't get any, you know, a little something for the, then there's no show the next day. Meaning, who we ending the show to go watch? Oh, Pot Awful's on in 2 minutes. Oh, you did that, so I would say that. I think the Pot Awful people are having a show. And I don't say that to recommend that you watch the show, although I'm not recommending that you don't. I'm just saying that because everybody goes and watches that and nobody watches this. Those people who do watch both go and do that when this is. So, but maybe we won't do a show tomorrow because we didn't get any scratch, cheddar, mean green, wampum, dead presidents, none of that. Yeah, that'll show you. That show I was going to do on Tiddlywinks, yeah, well, you're going to have to do without. Anyway, I think the only thing left to say is, till next time, we'll see you next time.
'Talking about, we're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin, and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gully. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gully, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gully. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gully, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. And you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gully. Yes, I am. So what we're talking about?